Hi, I'm Sam,
And I'm Max.
and this is Movies Actually, where we give an actual honest review of the movies we've meddled with so mischievously over on Maybe Movies. And this week, we're talking about The Colour Out of Space, the 2020 Richard Stanley film, which was released starring Nicolas Cage amongst others. And based on the original H.P. Lovecraft story of the same name.
Like the last one, it is a real modern classic.
Very.
Well, it will be in time. It was probably too young to say that, but it has the hallmarks of one.
A film that endeavours to do what Lovecraft's writing actually strived for, which was describing the indescribable. And I think they did a pretty good job.
Oh my god, yes. Yeah. I mean, this is one that, again, it's a bit like The Witch, where it's not one that we have a kind of a personal connection with because it's something we remember from our childhood. I mean, I think we saw this, we watched this together, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, well, sort of shortly after it came out, when it was first released on DVD. And I'm finding it, my experience of it, I'm finding indescribable now.
It's a movie of many, many layers. Like an onion, baby! And it has so much going on. Every time the film escalates a part of the story, it also escalates its aesthetics, where there is more colour in the background, more unusual creatures happening. It gradually escalates the situation.
It's the perfect combination as well, because the slow burn part of it is just the right amount. Without it feeling too long. It keeps you
never
engaged.
Hangs around at all. Alright, so let's start off. So it's the story of a family in rural New England whose land is impacted by a meteorite that exhibits the colour out of space. An undescribable colour that seems to infect everything around them. The story describes what happens to that family in the months and years afterwards and how they slowly disintegrate. The film does the same thing but on a much shorter time frame.
Absolutely, yeah.
Probably a couple of weeks at the very most.
At the very most, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the story itself. I mean, what's so wonderful about this film as well is the original story is told from the point of view of somebody who's coming into the area and is hearing the story from somebody who was there at the events, but the events were like 50 years ago. So the story takes the right track for a movie and makes it more, as you say, it makes it more immediate and involves those people more directly.
Yeah, it's a direct correlation. So the young man who hears the story in the original version is the young man who's actually doing the investigation in the movie. So he's privy to certain secrets that the family are not, and so on and so forth, which bring a greater detail of depth to the character and the importance he plays in the story, which really helps because it's easy to sit and read a third or fourth person story in the Lovecraftian style. Mm-hmm. But when you're watching, you can't say, my granddad told me this. You need to be directly involved in the story. Otherwise, it doesn't have the same depth or...
Well, I mean, you made an interesting point while we were watching it about how Lovecraft seemed to be a very remote author. He didn't really connect with anything beyond base emotions. He didn't with the emotional connections between characters.
He had almost no concern for character. He only cared about the details of the cosmos that he was building. And it comes across in his writing because they are always distant, remote people. They're either several generations removed from the actual event, or they are people 40 or 50 years removed from the events that they are describing. Mm-hmm. He was always remote with his characters. He always had distance and a perspective that his characters had to give it a cosmic feel. Whereas this is actually a really direct, intimate, contained story. It's one of the reasons it's such a great choice out of all of his canon.
Absolutely. And again, Richard Stanley does a wonderful job of giving life to those characters that were described only within the or described only as much as they needed to be within the confines of the original story. There's a few changes from the original story, because I listened to that recently. There's Horror Babble have done their audio version of it, which is really good.
I think it's about 8 years since I've actually read the original story, so it's a while.
So again, in the story, the character who's narrating it is a neighbour of the gardeners, who is effectively the character of Ezra in the film.
Oh, I thought he was the young man,
No.
but just second generation.
No. It's supposed to be the neighbour.
His predecessor telling him the story.
No, it's the neighbour whose name, it does begin with an E, but it's not Ezra, but it's something similar. But yeah, he meets Lord Phillips.
You invent in your mind sometimes when you read stories. It's incredible.
Yeah, but yeah, because he survives the thing, and then 50 years later, when Ward turns up, he tells him the story.
Remember the bit about how it's now covered with water, and I will never drink that water. And they were what struck me, like that sense of remembrance and understanding of what happened.
Yeah, again, in the story itself, there's the gardeners say, well, they have 3 sons, so they've done the right thing. They swapped out the middle son for the daughter.
Which is interesting to me, because we were discussing this earlier, and I was genuinely convinced that the gardeners had a daughter called Lavinia. But no, that's just the film. It's funny how the brain fills in details when you're reading a story. Do you agree, folks?
But I think I understand that you have a bit more of a personal connection to this one.
I do. I'll be honest, folks. I'm a fan of Richard Stanley's work, including Dust Devil, of course, Hardware, which was the one that a lot of people in the 90s knew. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but you'll know if you know. And then, of course, his belated association with the 90s remake of The Island of Dr. Moreau. I actually dated a young lady called Lorraine in the early 2000s who'd previously had a relationship with Richard. And one weekend, she said she was going to take me to meet him. I didn't believe her until we actually arrived in London, in his flat, and I walked into it. Obviously, I didn't know the director himself. I didn't see his face. He doesn't appear in his films. But I saw the posters, signed by Angus Scrimm, Coffin Joe, just about everybody you could care to think about. And then I walked into his living room. One quarter of the room was devoted to the shamanistic shrine from his first film, Dust Devil, and the other corner was dedicated to his second film, Hardware, and it had all of the best props. I had such an amazing day that day. I really did. He was an interesting person to meet. One of the first things that happened just after I arrived is one of the students from the London School of Film came to him and was asking for advice about his third year project.
Okay.
And he was telling him how to fix it to make it better. And then we just spent the afternoon and evening with him when he performed a rather interesting, if you excuse the expression, shit test on me, which I survived rather well. Because instead of being shocked, annoyed, freaked out, anything like that, I just picked up a camera and started filming them. Apparently, he liked that. That was very brave. Anyway, I have met Richard Steinle and I love his work. It's a real shame that the storyboarded film that I saw in his flat never got made, but I'm really glad this one did, because he's done a fantastic job.
He does. Yeah, well, I don't want to say he does. He has. I must admit, now that you mention that, it's like, I wonder what the storyboards for this look like.
Just, you know what? He can't kill me. I haven't met him since. It was a movie about vampires and Nazis called VI. I really wanted to see it. And folks, if you care about his movies, ask him to do it. Please. Anyway.
It would be awesome. It would be absolutely awesome.
Back to the actual subject.
But yes, definitely do check out this film. Because if you are a fan of horror, regardless of what you think of Lovecraft and the whole debate that keeps circling around about Lovecraft as a man and how that impacts his art.
Like his racism and isolationism and all that. Yeah. Yeah,
obviously you can make your own decisions, but this, as a film itself, it's definitely worth your time. I think, both have really fond memories of it because we did this as one of our 2 movies for our first Halloween special. The other one, obviously, being The Witch.
Yes.
It was just so nice to see something that was so immediate and so recent compared to most of the movies we end up doing on the show.
I think it had only been out 3 months. So, yeah, it was brand new. But that's the kind of impact it had on us.
Yeah. And also it was those episodes were the ones where I started actually playing around properly with thumbnails.
And yes, getting the picture right, yes.
Yes, yeah, which it was all about the development of the channel and stuff. But the film itself, it's definitely, as I say, definitely worth your time. Do give it a look. And I'm kind of running out of things to say because how much can we praise this thing any more than we have?
I think you're right.
Without giving more away. So
it's really good. Go watch it. I think it's probably one of the best Lovecraft adaptations I've ever seen by orders of magnitude.
Mm-hmm.
So if you care about Lovecraft and you want to see it done right, definitely see it.
And if you've got a decent sound system as well, because the soundscaping on it is
Soundscape, lightscape, the whole thing. I mean, I studied drama in uni and I was the lighting guy, and I really loved all of the plays that used lighting as a character.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Stanley does in this movie. It's not just composition, it's not just shot, it's the use of light, it's the way things are illuminated, the way things are colorized in so many different ways in the movie, and if you watch it you'll understand what I'm talking about. But he pays so much detail to attention to the ideas of colour being a presence, and as a technician I love that. So please go watch it.
I think that is definitely
2 thumbs up.
Absolutely. So the question now, I suppose, is, do we want to break the rules by taking a day off, or do we want to break the rules about talking about it?
You know what? Let's talk about it.
But you're not allowed to talk about Fight Club.
Never, ever.
Until next time, It's the wrong show. I'm talking about the ending from the wrong show.
Yeah.
Take care. We will see you next time.
As always, guys, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you soon.